Season, the Ravens finally back on the right track. Lamar Jackson returned last week from his 3-game absence to lead a dominant performance against the Dolphins. Now Baltimore will look to continue their win streak against the Vikings, who upset the Lions in Week 9 after getting their own quarterback, JJ McCarthy, back from injury. And so, are you concerned that the Ravens will get now upset, though, by the Vikings? This game's not in Baltimore. RC, what do you think?
You know what? I am concerned. I don't believe it'll happen, but you have to be concerned. When you watch the film of what Brian Flores was able to do to Jared Goff last week, it was absolutely phenomenal. The pressure he put on him in the middle of the pocket, making Jahmyr Gibbs a blocker instead of someone that releases on third down. It was a masterful performance by him. But that's the only thing that scares me. When you look at JJ McCarthy right now, as he's still trying to get an understanding of the NFL game, he's played 2 good quarters and 1 pass. That's what we've seen from him. And so now with Kyle Hamilton moving closer to the line, Zach Orr really figuring out how to use him as a chess piece, and the acquisition of Alohi Gilman, this defense has been on the rise for the last 3 weeks. And I think JJ McCarthy just still isn't in a place right now to attack them or Lamar Jackson, who has a stellar record against NFC teams.
Stephen A?
Maybe the Vikings will give us a reason to be concerned. I just don't find myself very concerned about them for the Ravens for this game. I think that when you think about Brian Flores and what he's able to dial up, RC, Cam, I harken back to 2021 when Brian Flores was the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. Yes, I'm mentioning that because he should still be a head coach in this league. But I'm thinking about him, and I'm thinking about how he dialed up the blitz against Lamar Jackson and made life a living hell for Lamar back then. And when Lamar defers to what he has become, particularly under duress when he's blitzed, and how much better he is compared to what he used to be, he brings up that experience that he had against Brian Flores' defense. So he's familiar with this man and how this man is going to bring the rain and going to bring the heat. And Lamar Jackson's a better quarterback because of it. I think about Lamar and what he's going to do. I'm also thinking about Baltimore and how Baltimore's only given up 13 points or so over the last few games, and they forced so many turnovers. And then I'm thinking about JJ McCarthy. He's still a rookie, y'all, in terms of his play. He's 2-1 as a starter. He's only completing 58% of his passes, which is lowest amongst, quarterbacks with at least 3 starts. Only 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 14 sacks, which is the worst sack percentage among quarterbacks with a minimum of 3 starts. I think Baltimore can get to him. I'm just not worried about Minnesota in this game.
Yeah. When you look at the gameplay of a J.J. McCarthy, the thing that sticks out to me, he still has that look of uncertainty a little bit. And when you have as many games started as he does, you are reminded that he's still a rookie with his experience. Well, when you play an intimidating lineage of a team like the Baltimore Ravens, these things is what kind of gives you heartache at night. When you start to think like, oh, I'm playing Baltimore? You don't know from whoever came before to things that they're there now, and you start to think to yourself like, am I playing the Baltimore Ravens defense or am I playing Lamar Jackson? These things show up in JJ McCarthy's play, even though he has the best receiver in the game. And even that has been something that's been kind of a head scratcher because his numbers have dropped dramatically, this particular year. So I'm not worried that the Minnesota Vikings can potentially, give the Baltimore Ravens an upset, even though the record, will say anything different. I'm just expecting the Baltimore Ravens to take this game and other games moving forward to really find their footing and their traction as the season goes on.
I mean, we still have to remember, as the team, not just JJ McCarthy, as the team, the Minnesota Vikings went into Detroit and won a game. Yep. That's an extremely difficult place to do so. And so to just think that all the problems of the Baltimore Ravens are fixed automatically right now, I think that's a bit presumptive. And so, yes, the Baltimore Ravens have to go play their best ball to get this win in Minnesota.
It feels like the defense is fixed, though. Through the first 5 games, that defense was the worst in the NFL. The last 3 games, they've only allowed 1 passing touchdown, so they're going in the right direction. The game of the week, though, it's going to be Monday night, right? When the Packers...
Perimeter players that haven't been healthy, he's been knocked around, yet this team somehow, even with all those injuries, is still in the playoff race, and it's because of the quarterback play. There's a quarterback controversy brewing.
A quarterback controversy brewing. What does that mean? How you hear that? as the Niners and the Rams are playing this weekend, what does a quarterback controversy with the Niners mean? 6-2 Rams, 6-3 Niners.
I think the controversy is when you decide to bring Brock Purdy back this season. And the more Mac Jones wins, the more runway you can give Brock to be able to heal from that injury. Now, what becomes tricky is when Brock is fully healthy. If that happens at some point before the regular season ends, then what do? Do you pull the plug on Mac Jones, who's been able to build momentum with this team, or do you decide to turn it over to Brock? Here's the thing. When we start talking about quarterback controversy, I don't think this is for long term in San Francisco. I think this is just for this year. Because the 49ers, they're not going to be prisoners of the moment. They realize what Brock Purdy has done for them. These guys gone to multiple conference championship games and took them to a Super Bowl, which they lost in overtime because the head coach made an all-time gaffe. Not through anything of Brock Purdy's fault of his own. Matter of fact, the guy balled in that Super Bowl. Brock played really, really well. And so I don't think you pivot off of a quarterback that you just paid that got you to the championship rounds consistently and played well in a Super Bowl. I just don't think you move off of guys like that.
Yeah,
I'm giving you a round of applause. Bravo. Thank you for squashing the stupidity around this. I'm not calling Dan stupid. I'm saying the stupidity around the long-term aspect of this. This is about whether or not you ride the hot hand. We're not, because like, you want Smalls, we talk about the Jets, what they could do with all these picks. All right, cool. If they want to go with Mac Jones, if I'm the Jets, I have my answer now. I'm going to get Brock Purdy. I'm going to bring Mike McDaniel in as my offensive coordinator. I already have Garrett Wilson, and now I'm going to recreate the Niners offense. Thank you. Done. Goodbye. I mean, like, that's what I'm doing.
But it's interesting that you framed it that way, because my takeaway off of that point, if that's in fact is the debate that's happening internally, then that just means the 49ers didn't think they're capable of winning the championship this year anyway. Because if you're going back and forth in a debate about whether or not you stay with Mac Jones, the quote hot hand, or you go back to Brock Purdy, the guy that you know can get you to a Super Bowl, then that means you don't feel like you can actually win the Super Bowl this year. This is a very much so a build for the future year. Not to say that we didn't have that anticipation coming into 2025 anyway for the Niners, but that's just the organization acknowledging that there are some real limitations on this team and that we're trying to build an identity with a new core of players that will allow us to have high-end success into the future, not necessarily this season.
But we thought that on this show, but a lot of people did not. They thought the 49ers were going to have a big-time bounce-back season after going 6-11 because they had talent, they were returning a lot of guys healthy, and because they had the easiest schedule in the NFL. A lot of people thought they would cakewalk their way to the playoffs and win that division. Evans raising his hand. He was one of them.
I don't know that there was a team in the NFL that lost more starters this offseason than the San Francisco 49ers.
They were relying on youth and health in a big-time way.
They were relying on a lot of young players that were unproven.
Correct.
To be able to get them there.
But I think many people thought they'd be right there.
I think people were bullish on the 49ers because they had the easiest strength of schedule coming into this season. And they didn't think that Kyle Shanahan will have back-to-back seasons with double-digit losses.
But a lot of those people, in addition to the strength of schedule and their belief in Kyle Shanahan, picked the 49ers in that manner because of Brock Purdy. He just got paid. They realized that he has taken them to a Super Bowl. And as you mentioned, it was not his fault that they lost the Super Bowl. So they thought if he's getting paid like a guy to elevate those around him, maybe he can do that. And I don't think it's a controversy either. Now, if it was this time last year, it would be at a fever pitch.
Because no contract.
No contract. A lot of people still at that point weren't sold on Brock Purdy. And you could have made the argument, if Mac Jones can plug and play with Kyle Shanahan, why would you pay Brock Purdy? But they've invested in him. He's the guy.
So let me, I think this, listen, the soundbite is there. We played Dan saying we may have a quarterback controversy in the mix here. CC nailed it, in my opinion. I don't think you can do better. Sure, for now, not for later. Let's talk about the for later part. Because are we ignoring one aspect of this? We have found on our show an odd coincidence that the retread, reborn quarterback happens on the fourth team. It's the weirdest thing. Baker, fourth team. Darnold, fourth team, now fifth team. Geno, fourth team.
Daniel Jones?
Third team. Is it next year with Mac on a different team that they trade him? He's under contract. And they get the value in return that somebody may give them more than they would have ever anticipated, because that's Mac's fourth team.
Yeah, I think you're at the point now where you can get a mid-round draft pick for Mac Jones. And that's a huge win for the San Francisco 49ers.